welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley, our jib operator. Needs some WD-40.
Did you hear that noise?
I did hear that noise, yeah.
I don't know if you heard it at home, but...
Lots going on today. Later on in the show, we'll be discussing a story that we still don't believe. We're trying to get to the bottom of it, whether or not it's true, involving one of the biggest footballers in the world. But we'll kick things off with another huge name. Big announcement today. Mo Salah will be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? Frank Leboeuf is with us, as is Beth Lindop. Beth, I want to start with you. Didn't he just sign a new contract in the summer?
Today was meant to be my first day of annual leave, so I mean that was fantastic when he decided to drop that announcement. But yeah, I think as much as the timing of the announcement is maybe taken a few people by surprise, including me, I think the nature of it's felt inevitable for a little while. I think obviously there was that big outburst, wasn't there, in December when he came out and accused the club of throwing him under the bus amid a poor run of form. He said his relationship had broken down with Arne Slot, and at that point it almost felt like the situation was irretrievable. It's credit to him, credit to Slot as well, that they were able to find a resolution to that he's been back in the team. He's been almost an ever-present since he came back from AFCON. But his performances, as of those of the rest of the team, but his particularly when you consider how high his standards are and how fantastic he was last season, which obviously led to him signing a new 2-year contract in April. His performances have been way below those standards, and I think, you know, we're maybe at a point now where you're starting to feel like Father Time is maybe catching him up, and therefore, from a football perspective, it's maybe the best thing for both him and for Liverpool to move on in the summer. But that's not to say that it won't be incredibly sad from a Liverpool perspective to see him go, because he's a modern day great, one of Liverpool's best ever players. So yeah, it's a huge story and a huge few months ahead. I'm sure a lot of fans will want to give him a proper farewell over the next couple of months.
Where's he going to go, Bev? Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's the obvious answer, isn't it? That's the place where he's been linked to for a long time. I think it's quite interesting. He's actually going to be leaving on a free transfer, despite the fact that he's got, I think it's 15 months left on his current contract. The club has reached an agreement with him to terminate his contract early, to terminate it this summer, which means that they won't get a transfer fee for him. I suppose that opens a few more doors in terms of clubs who might be willing to take a punt on him, even though his form hasn't been great this season. I'm sure there'll still be a long line of suitors, but that pool of suitors will be, I guess, reduced by the fact that he's on pretty astronomical wages. So it will be someone that can afford those. I think Saudi Arabia is obviously the most obvious answer. Obviously, we've seen a few sort of big players go over to the MLS, Messi among them, over the past few years. So I'm sure they will be right in the mix as well. But yeah, I'm sure we'll maybe find out a little bit more about that. His agent tweeted not so long ago saying that nobody knows, including Mo, where he's going to be playing next season. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of speculation, and I imagine Saudi will probably be right in and amongst that.
Winner?
Yeah, I think this is smart all round, because I think Mo Salah wants to save, for a better use of terminology, some face. What he has done for this club has been incredible. What the club have done for him is gave him a platform. And what he has given in return is astronomical numbers. And some of the best and biggest performances we've seen in the modern generation. His place in the halcyon of greats at Liverpool is not in doubt. It is not. He has some of the greatest records and some of the greatest goals in the history of that football club. So that is not in doubt. What is in doubt, and two things can be true, what is in doubt is his place in the current team. Mm-hmm. What is in doubt is how many games he's going to play going forward, certainly as a starting number 11, rather than coming off the bench. And we've already had that scenario already this season, and he didn't like it. But that's where he is. This is a struggling Liverpool team. This is a struggling Mo Salah. And changes, whether it'll be in personnel or in management, will have to be made. And I think he's clever enough to have seen that. And whilst between now and the end of the season is a particularly short time, and there may be one or two hurdles for him to get over in terms of team selection, I think next year would be a completely different story. And I think he knows that, and so I think this is a smart decision. I don't know how it's all unfolding financially all the way around. I think he's getting a free transfer. Obviously, some money saved from Liverpool's side. But in terms of the problems that the club are going to have with an unhappy player who's not playing as well and he's on huge money going forward, this sort of puts an end to that.
Yep.
So I think it's a win-win for both. But, you know, what he has done up until the start of this season, really, for this football club and what he's achieved, nobody will ever forget that, because it has been tremendous. I mean, the numbers that when you think about him and De Bruyne being basically shelved at Chelsea, and both of them went on, you know, different numbers, different size, different players, both of them went on to have the careers that they had in England, just shows you what these guys are all about.
Halcyon, eh?
Halcyon. You like it?
I love it.
Well, don't steal it next time.
Well, I don't really know what it means. Frank?
Yeah, you know what? It's sad in a way, because, you know, last year we had a debate about whether Liverpool should sign him or not. Will he be the same? And it was almost impossible for Liverpool to say no. And to say, no, we're not going to take the risk and bet on him being as good as he was last season. And nature and age tell us the truth. And at some point, you know that you're going to decline, and it happens to anybody and to all of us. And we have been through that. And sometimes you have to know when it's time, but you only know when it happens. And it's sad. It's hard to accept. And it's nice that Mo Salah can finally accept it and find a deal with Liverpool Football Club to maybe stop that beautiful adventure with the Reds, and hopefully he's going to be happy and go for some other clubs where he can still shine. But it is what it is, and we're already talking about him as the past, and that's why he's sad. And you know what? The only regret that I have, and you were talking about De Bruyne and Salah, that they play for Chelsea, my club, and they didn't shine in that club. That was I don't know which mistake it was. I think it wasn't the best club for them. It wasn't a good club and a good time for them. But to see what they have done after, it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, everybody's going to remember him. Mo Salah is something and the name that everybody's going to remember.
You know, I don't think Van Dijk's that far behind them, but that's a different story. The interesting thing here is you know, and I know he had a very good goal against Galatasaray. There's a lot of big football to be played for Liverpool between now and end of the season. Obviously, the league was long gone. But the Champions League places, it's a real bun fight, and they are not playing well. We saw that again at Brighton at the weekend. The anomaly was Galatasaray, and it was an anomaly. They're not playing well. They're dishevelled at the back. They're disjointed up front. There was questions even about Hugo Ekitike's desire to try and play through a dead leg. When you saw his manager telling him to get up, that kind of tells you that the manager thinks maybe he's a bit soft. Even though
does this announcement help or hurt the running?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's going to make Liverpool play any worse than they already are. But my point being is there can be no sentiment for Arne Slot, who people are looking at. I don't think he'll be sacked. But, you know, the stories will be written, and managers will be hovering around that are out of work. So, you know, that story's not going to go away, particularly if Liverpool don't make the Champions League, particularly if Liverpool finish the season in the same vein of form that they're in now. And therefore, Mo Salah can't be this sentimental lap of honour to the end of the season, because Liverpool are not in a position to do so. So as much as he'll want to go out playing and on a high and scoring and taking Liverpool back into a better position, he's going to have to play better. Otherwise, the manager's going to have to possibly looking at benching him again. So there can't be this victory run for Mo Salah waving to the crowd, as much as everybody would like that, because there's too much pressure on the club to get in the Champions League, and there's too much, and they're obviously still in the FA Cup. There's too much in the Champions League, which they're not going to win, by the way. I mean, barring a miracle, they're not going to win the Champions League. Holy hell, how are they going to beat PSG over 2 games playing the way they are? So the top 4 or 5 is the carrot, really, for Liverpool and Arne Slot. And Mo Salah will have to play well, otherwise he's going to see the end of his Liverpool career probably on the bench. And Arne Slot can't be faulted if that's what has to be done, because he's got a job to do. And his job is not to send Mo Salah off on a high. His job is to get Liverpool in a better position.
Beth, you know your annual leave is absolutely totaled because the ESPN FC editors are already writing you that email that says, where does Mo Salah rank in the best ever Liverpool player stakes?
Well, I mean, it's very high for me. I mean, I'm 26, so in terms of my whole adult life, you know, Mo Salah has been Liverpool Football Club, and of course there've been, you know, phenomenal players to come before him: Steven Gerrard, Kenny Dalglish, some of the best players to ever, you know, play the game. So there's a real illustrious list there, but he's right among them for me in terms of his consistency. I mean, this season, obviously, as we've said, he hasn't been at his best, but you know, for 8 years, Nyani, he's been unstoppable most weeks. He's driven Liverpool to these incredible moments, these incredible trophies. He's been, and I think more than that as well, he's almost transcended the club and football. You know, he's become a bit of a cultural phenomenon. Everywhere that you go on Merseyside, the people know who Mo Salah is. All around the world, people know who Mo Salah is, and he's become the idol to so many children on Merseyside. He's just totally adored here. So yeah, I think he's got to be right up there for me. And if he could end with another trophy or two, then I think his standing will only increase.
Frank, are you doing cow impressions? What are you doing in the background?
No, I was listening to Beth, and I can disagree with her, you know, because I'm part of another generation, and we have seen so many fantastic red players like Kenny Dalglish, Bonds, Kevin Keegan, Jan Rush, Steve McManaman, Robbie Fowler. It's hard to, yes, he's part of them, but there is a debate and there is a fight to name who is the best of the best on his side. Maybe Beth knows better than us, maybe Craig or you even Dan know better than me, but you have some names that you can name and be a contest with Mo Salah.
That's why I couldn't be a journalist. Well, I couldn't be a journalist for many reasons. One, I'm not trained as a journalist, but I hate these discussions.
You trained for this?
Yeah. 20 odd years training for this.
There you go.
I don't like, and I know editorial like to have these comparisons and lists and rankings. I don't like it because eras are different, teams are different, everything's sort of different about it. And you know, there's been so many great players. It's so many of the big clubs. It's hard to rank. And you know what a lot of people do these days? They just crunch numbers.
Right.
They just look at numbers and say, well, look at these numbers. A has to be a better player than B and a better player than C. And I think, you know, everybody's different. You know, Mo Salah plays in a different position to Kenny Dalglish and a different position to Graham Souness, and the list goes on. So what we know is, in his position, it would be hard to argue that there's been a better player and more productive player at Liverpool in his own position. But in terms of, you know, being a great at a football club, I think we just leave them all there as great players.
So I suppose, Beth, the next question is, who's going to replace him?
Yeah, well, that is the tough task. I mean, he's impossible to replace, really. And I think you almost saw that a little bit in terms of Liverpool's transfer strategy last summer. I know there was a lot of a debate over whether Liverpool were right to bring in two strikers in Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak. But what Mo Salah has done for the past nearly 9 years is quite abnormal in terms of the numbers that he's managed to put up from out wide. You know, it's so rare that we see wingers generate those numbers season after season, and Liverpool have spent nearly a decade geared around him, set up to bring the best out of Mo Salah. And I think from now on what we might see is the team set up in a slightly different way, maybe more of an emphasis on goals being spread across the forward line, across the team. Obviously it's been difficult this season because Alexander Isak hasn't been involved for most of the campaign, so you know it's hard to say how he will flourish at Liverpool going forward. Hugo Ekitike has made a promising start. So it's difficult to see how he's replaced. I think whether he'd have stayed or not, I think Liverpool definitely need signings in the summer in terms of on the wings. I think that the lack of pace out wide has really hurt them this season. They really miss players who, like Mo Salah in his prime, was able to take 1, 2, 3 players on. They just haven't had that this season. So I think even if he hadn't have been leaving this summer, then they would have been in the market for a winger. You know, I'm sure they would love somebody like a Michael Olise at Bayern Munich, but again, in terms of the finances involved, and as Craig said, Liverpool are currently sort of embroiled in a battle for Champions League qualification. So, you know, it might be a hard sell to some top players if they can't get into that competition for next season. But I think they will probably dip back into the market. And what I will say as well, we're talking about Liverpool's greatest ever players. We've got to give Stevie Nicol a shout out there. I can't believe that nobody has mentioned him in that discussion.
Well, I can, but
and Luis Garcia. And we have Luis Garcia.
No, don't put
as well.
Luis in the same as Steve Nicol.
You've just been stupid now. Right. Do you know when you're talking about replacing a Mo Salah? Michael Olise has been fantastic since leaving Palace for Bayern Munich. His second full season, he's been terrific. Kind of different type of player. A little bit, maybe I would say, more cultured.
He's not going to go from Bayern to Liverpool, is he?
No. But if I think, and this player, I don't think this player will leave either, but if I think about Mo Salah, if I think about a player currently playing who has the kind of effect on the game that Salah can, who does things kind of off the cuff, because Salah does a lot of bad things in the game. As you know, Stevie's always shouting at the TV, bad touches, bad control, you know, running, you know. And then all of a sudden, he'll pop up with something that's a genius, something that's just brilliant, and that's what made him. It wasn't the consistency of 90 minutes, it was what he did within the 90 minutes in these little moments. And that's kind of dried up, and that's part of the issue. But when I look at a player who does the off-the-cuff dribbling, then something special at the end, and you never really always know what you're going to get, but the talent level is there. It's Kvaratskhelia at PSG. Although he plays on the left mostly, he's kind of, to me, when I look at a replacement of Salah, if you're looking for a light for light, I look at Kvaratskhelia because I'm thinking, here's a guy who picks the ball up.
He's not going to go either, though, is
No,
he?
but I'm just saying, well, he was actually out the team at PSG recently when he came off the bench in the game, the Champions League game, and scored a couple because he hadn't been playing well. But what I'm saying is, if you're in the market for a light-for-light replacement, you're looking at people that just do things on the spur of a moment. They've got the talent level, the confidence, and the end product. I'm sure his numbers are not as good as Mo Salah's at this moment in time. But that's the kind of player, if you want to get back to the top and you want to replace these numbers that Mo Salah has set, then you're going to have to pay big bucks for it. And you're going to have to go to these big clubs in the market and test the water. It's very unlikely you're going to get a youngster coming in who is from the back and beyond that not a lot of people know about, and they'll come in and replace these type of performances. It's very, very unlikely.
Beth, once you get back to your holiday as a theatre buff, will you be heading to France to see Frank on the stage? I'm hearing there are plenty of tickets.
Yeah, I mean, I will be first in line, don't you worry.
Yep, that's a very short line. Beth, thank you very much appreciated.
You're my guest, but you won't understand anything of what I'm saying. That's
all right.
That could be an improvement.
Just a normal day for us.
Beth, thank you very much. Just a reminder, Liverpool, of course, in action in the big FA Cup tie as they take on Manchester City when domestic football returns after the international break at the end of this month. It has been a rough time, hasn't it, for Liam Rosenior? Came in, did well with Chelsea, but it's all fallen apart of late, of course. Disappointing exit, thrashed by PSG in the Champions League, losing to Newcastle as well. Another poor game for them at Goodison, or wherever it is, where they lost.
Hill Dickinson.
Thank you very much, where they lost against Everton 3-0. For more on where Chelsea stand on him, James Ollie is joined us. James, it's interesting that this news that some behind the scenes weren't as impressed with Rosenior as we were hoping kind of rumbled on last week. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, basically what they want to do is what they did with Maresca, which is try and judge him at the end of his second season. He's obviously come in the middle of the campaign. He's not therefore had a pre-season or a lot of time to work with the players. He came in a period where it was sort of games every 3 days and no real time to work with the group. And I think that what they've briefed really is that they want to look at him in the summer of 2027. The problem, of course, is the short term and the results. And the fact is that the performances have been so, they've swung wildly. They've been quite good on occasion. They've been very poor in other games, and they can't keep a clean sheet for love nor money at the moment. I think it's 1 in 14 or 15 games, and that was against Hull in the FA Cup. So, and now they've obviously gone out of the Champions League. They've got, they are in a real scrap now for the top 5. And as far as I understand it, the expectation was that this squad was good enough, almost with whoever was in charge, to make the Champions League. If they don't make the Champions League, that then I think places Rosenior's future in a little bit of doubt. The other element, of course, which could accelerate all of this, is the fan reaction to him. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the fans have never really warmed to Liam Rosenior. I think there's been a bit of scepticism about him from the get-go. A lot of the fans sort of see him as a bit of a yes man for Blueco, somebody who won't necessarily push back. He obviously isn't somebody who comes with the pedigree and the profile of some of the, or most of the Chelsea managers of the last sort of 20 or 30 years. So he's fighting from behind a little bit there. And if the team continues to put these poor performances in and obviously drifts away from the Champions League places, then you can sense it's going to turn quite quickly. I thought it was interesting when I was at the Champions League game last week against PSG, that again the fans were singing Roman Abramovich's name, and that kind of tells you that there's some discontent bubbling under the surface, and it's sort of not quite found its home yet. Some it's a bit towards the manager, some it's a bit towards some of the players, some of it's towards the ownership. Well, eventually that will concentrate, and you suspect that it will concentrate on Rosenior more than anyone else.
James, I don't know what you or anybody else thinks about this, but I don't think it helps when the fans are listening to a manager, and this has been from day one, sort of talk and address the media in the way that he does, with the sort of rhetoric that he uses, and obviously the actions with the notes. And there's been so many I think there's been a lot of stuff that could easily turn the dressing room, not against him, but almost in a mocking way, when they're listening to what he's saying and when they're watching what he does in the technical area. And I don't know what goes on in the training ground, but when I look at some of the things that he says and does, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, you do get the sense that perhaps he's overcompensating a little bit for just the lack of pedigree. He's come into a squad that has World Cup winners in it, that has players that have won titles, and players who've got a huge amount of potential, and young players who've been given a big contract or a long contract at a big club, and expect a manager of great stature to come in and improve them. And I have to say, look, I mean, he got a lot of criticism when he came in. I was at his first press conference. He came in and he made a point of shaking everybody's hand. And I thought, OK, fair enough. Not every manager does it. Funnily enough, Igor Tudor did it a couple of weeks later when he came in at Spurs. So, it's not like it's unheard of. But just from that first action, it's always felt as though he's having to feel he's got to show he's worthy of this level. And by that, he's overcompensating with some of the things he's doing. So, as you say, when he was passing a note to Garnacho when they needed, whatever it was, 5 goals in 5 minutes to force extra time, you sort of think, well, yeah. And there was an image of him when he got caught. He saw himself on the big screen at Everton, and he was sat down. He suddenly got up and started to point and look quite busy and thoughtful. and you just think you don't need to do all of that. You just need to manage the team effectively. And the other part of this is where, when he's coming out and speaking to us, he's saying constantly, literally using the words, "I'm taking responsibility for everything. I will protect my players. I will protect my players." If you say that after every single game, not only does it start to look that it sort of loses its effect a little bit, but it also looks as though you're trying to win the players over. Rather than speaking with the authority that on occasion, actually, I might dig a player out, or I might chastise the performance, the group as a whole. A lot of players are protected by their managers. That's normal. But if your default, and obviously the whole respect the ball thing with the embracing the centre circle and the referee in the middle of it, it's ridiculous. And he should come out and say that. He doesn't lose any face, except, of course, if you're worried about showing that you've got the gravitas and the control of the dressing room and you're in control of the situation. And I think that's what's behind these sort of public missteps, if you like.
Like with that respect to both, I mean, that was just ludicrous. But I think he seems to have been incapable of this since the start. at the press conference at the end, he said, look, my players wanted to do a huddle, and he could have laughed it off and said it was all a bit stupid.
Yes.
And it looked stupid. And,
Yeah.
but it went from, my players just wanted to respect the ball, which is going to, the whole of anybody that's played or watches the game will go, what the hell are we talking about here?
Yeah.
And then he started talking about putting complaints into the PGMOL when they've just been beaten and their defending was horrendous for the goal. I agree. I think James has probably got this one spot on. He seems to be forcing it.
Right.
And the rhetoric is...
Players can smell that.
Oh, my God. And that's why I brought this up, because I've been in so many dressing rooms with changes of manager, and if somebody comes in, and not only by actions but by words, players, a dressing room of 25 people, experienced players, well, fraud's a very strong word, will smell somebody who's not ready, smell somebody who shouldn't be there. They'll sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Right.
And I just feel that, and I think the weekend's display would kind of back that up a little bit. It wasn't just performance, it was work rate, it was desire. And players talk, whether you like it or not. Dressing rooms talk, that's what they do. The manager's only in the dressing room for a couple of minutes at a time. The coaches are only in there now and again. The players are in there all the time. They get changed in there, they shower in there, they talk in there. That's what they do. And a manager can easily be undermined by what, particularly in this day and age, when every manager's words are amplified across every newspaper and social media. So players see everything. Nothing goes unheard of. And I've just felt that this kind of rhetoric, you know, I said this to you after his very first interview. I said, this is not going to have long legs. It's not. I could just sense by the way he was, and it's actually got worse. He's doubled down on the initial interviews, and it's falling off a cliff into, it's just ludicrous. And when you get to that stage, and when you're at that stage with your players, and I don't know if he is, but it looks like it, it's very difficult to get them back on side. Once they go to the other side, it's very difficult then to drag them back because they've already made their mind up. And once the dressing room makes its mind up, it's very, very difficult to change that.
Frank?
Yeah, that's the concern that I have. You know, his approach about the dressing room was wrong, where because of the non-pedigree in the world of football, he tried to pretend or maybe to behave like a professor of philosophy, knowing his world, you know, knowing the words and everything. And that wasn't the kind of stuff you should have done. You cannot fake it. You have to be real. You have to say the truth to the player. You can say whatever you want to say in the press conference, but to the players you have to be straight. Yeah, I might not have the pedigree, but I did stuff, and I have an idea how I want to make it. And if you don't follow me, I'm not going to pick you. You have to have one direction to go into. I think he was too much waiting, saying, "Oh, I know, but I'm going to check how it works." It doesn't work that way. And but do you know what? He's not the only responsible for that. I mean, the players, and we have seen that. And I'm wondering, imagine that the board decides to get rid of Liam Rossinier and get somebody else. What do you do with that defense? On top of it, you have players injured. Colwill has been injured for a long time, and he was the leader of that defense. We can see that Wesley Fofana is still looking for something that we don't know if one day he's going to find it. We lost the captain. He's injured now. So it's hard also for Liam Rossinier to give what the fans and maybe the press and the former player that we are want to see from Chelsea. The inconsistency of the players have been shown not only under Liam Rossinier, but under Maresca, the guy before here, and the guy before here. And it's hard to count on Chelsea and what they can achieve, because we know that they're not ready. They're not ready. Maybe they're not the player who should play for that club nowadays with the level they have been in the years 2000 until 2020.
And of course, Chelsea are the Manchester United of the South at the moment, aren't they? They're stumbling around. They don't know, you know. Man United still are unsure. I mean, Michael Carrick at the moment's in the box seat, but who the hell knows what way they're going to go? and they've stumbled around for several years now. It just seems this new ownership is, whilst the club may be running different mechanics, they are also spending money and changing managers and stumbling around and not really knowing what they want. It's a kind of wait-and-see policy. So, it's not all on Liam Rosenior, of course the goalkeeping situation is not particularly good, and Robert Sanchez was at it at the weekend again. Even before they lost the 3 goals, he almost got caught out, trying to dribble out from the back. So there's a lot of issues there to be dealt with. I just feel if Liam Rosenior wants to hang on, it's not just about results, but it's about rhetoric and respect as well, and at the moment he's got to build all those fronts.
One more thing before we move on from Chelsea, James. Obviously, you've got Enzo flirting away with Real Madrid.
Yeah, well, this is, it goes back to the point that Craig was making about the dressing room. If you've got a group of players that fully respect their head coach, do you, within 20 minutes of going out of the Champions League, go and do an interview with ESPN Argentina and say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here next season? I mean, that is an alarming sign. He's obviously tried to play it down. Rosenior subsequently suggested he's spoken to to Fernandes himself and suggested there's no issue. He's obviously on a very long contract, but that is a worrying sign when your World Cup winner, your vice captain, one of your best players is. No, he knows what he's doing. He's casting doubt over it. And for me, it just comes back to the issue with this head coach model that they have at Chelsea, right? You've got a very specific situation where you've got 5 sporting directors who all feed into the manager. There was a lot of chat around when Maresca left that he wasn't solely in charge of picking the team. And by that, I mean the medical department was dictating quite heavily when substitutions should be made, certain minutes for certain players at certain times. And Maresca, who accepted that, and remember, he came in from Leicester, he hadn't managed in the Premier League, he was a bit of an unproven, sort of factor at the highest level. He won the Club World Cup, he got them into the Champions League, he won the Conference League, and he felt he deserved a little bit more say in that, and that created that friction within that head coach model. So they've come for Liam Rosenior, who's worked in the Blueco system at Strasbourg. This comes back to some of the fans' criticism of him that he's a bit of a yes man, but he knows that and he accepts that environment and he knows he's going to get that technical feedback and that input from a lot of people. But what do you have as a head coach there? You either have a head coach who doesn't have the pedigree and is prepared to accept that slightly diminished role, or you get a high-profile big name who is not going to accept that, and there's going to be friction from the get-go. So this is a bit of an issue for Chelsea and their model overall, because if this is a stepping stone to something else, if you say, OK, I'm going to get a yes man in for 18 months, 2 years, he proves his worth, and then we give him more responsibility, and we move more from a head coach to a manager situation, then I understand it. But if you want to perpetually control your head coach, you're never going to get someone. It's very unlikely to get someone who's unproven but can develop and then accept that they don't have the level of control that all of their contemporaries do.
Stay in London, shall we? And look at the bottom of the table. Of course, Spurs losing at home against Nottingham Forest put a huge dent in their hopes for safety, and the bookies can't separate them. Spurs and West Ham are the same price to go down. Just 1 point separates them. Next up for Spurs, of course, mid-April, their next game in the Premier League, James, away against Sunderland. Who will be in charge?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, it's a very difficult situation with Igor Tudor because obviously he was brought in as the firefighter and all he's done is really pour petrol on the situation. And, 1 win in 7 games, and it was a win that didn't matter against Atletico Madrid. However, there is obviously a personal element to this. He has suffered the loss of his father, and the club are very acutely aware of trying to give him space and time to process what was obviously a difficult moment for him and his family. But then you go back to the professional side of it and you say, well, is there anything really to recommend him continuing after what was a dismal performance against Nottingham Forest? And if they are going to make a change, they need to get on with it because they want to have time with whoever they get in to be able to work with the players when they come back from the international break. And there's no time to waste because every game matters in the run-in. So I think he's unlikely to be in charge for that game. The other element, of course, is who they get in and whether they can get a short-term appointment to get them through to the summer. My understanding is the two names on the shortlist for the permanent job are Mauricio Pochettino and Roberto De Zerbi. Now, De Zerbi has had some contact with Spurs, and he has made it known to them that he would be interested in potentially taking the job in the summer if they stay in the Premier League. Now, that conversation, as far as I know, is not extended to saying to De Zerbi, well, what would it take to get you in now, and would he take it? Of course, he's out of work after leaving Marseille. Pochettino is in a different situation. He's, of course, managing the US at the World Cup. He wouldn't consider anything until after that tournament, which would mean if they were going to go down the Pochettino route, and you suspect that he will be in demand from one or two other clubs as well. I always thought Manchester United would be a potential logical option for him. That's going to be a more complicated situation, and they'd have to wait to get him until after the summer, and which, of course, we don't know whether they're going to stay in the league or not. For me, I get the argument for bringing somebody in who knows the club. I know that's sometimes a bit of a cliche and people talk about DNA and whatever. But when you go to Spurs, you can see the disconnect. You can see the fundamental disconnect between that group of players, the predicament that the club are in, and, of course, the fans. And you need somebody who can stitch that together. And then you start looking at the candidates and you think, well, Harry Redknapp, he's been out of work for, I think it's 7 or 8 years. He's 79 years old. He says he could come in and do a job. That would be a gamble. You've got Ryan Mason, who, if Daniel Levy was still at the club, would probably be turning to now. But, of course, he had his own managerial disappointment at West Brom and has kind of taken a step back there. There's Robbie Keane, but would he necessarily leave Ferencváros to go for a temporary role that could be whatever it is, 7 or 8 games, or whatever they've got left? Unlikely. Then you've got sort of more unproven candidates who are out of work, like Jermaine Defoe or Glenn Hoddle, of course, who's got great experience but not been involved in the game. So it's an incredibly difficult situation. And Vinay Venkatesham, who's the CEO there, sort of created his reputation on backing Arteta in that difficult moment when he was at Arsenal. I think he'd like to try and continue with this again. But it feels as though it's got to the point that if it's almost negligence if they don't do anything, given how bad it's been under Tudor.
It's a very unfortunate situation for personally with his father passing away. But they have to look at this from a business standpoint. They're up the creek without a paddle. That's how they had a good game against Atletico Madrid, but that game was almost done and dusted after the first leg. They had a decent second half, in particular at Anfield. That apart,
who would you choose from that list of names that James gave us then?
Well, obviously, I worked with Glenn at Chelsea, and we're talking about a guy who's A, managed Spurs, as well as the other teams he's managed, and B, has been the England manager. But again, they've been out of the game for so long. I think I'm right in saying Harry Redknapp, I think he's 79.
Yes, yeah, 79 as well.
And I've always thought Harry Redknapp was just a great man manager. And I agree with James. I think in terms of the short term at this club, I'm not a big believer in you need to know the club. If you're looking at long term, you need to know the club, you need to know the league, all that sort of nonsense. Because managers learn fast, and this game travels. So people know what's happening in the Bundesliga and Serie A, so people know what's happening in the Premier League. And over a long term, I never buy into that. Well, he knows the fabric of the club and all that sort of nonsense. I think it's just balderdash. However, I think on this occasion, for a 7 or 8 game run or whatever it is, and I've looked at Spurs fixtures, by the way, they are not the easiest. Mm-hmm. Not that anyone's going to be easy at this stage, the way they're playing, but they have a particularly difficult run-in. And I do feel it needs somebody at this moment in time that can go in, connect the fans, get the players sort of, believing again. And more importantly than if you play a 4 at the back or a 3 at the back or a 4-3-3, is they need a bit of fight. I've been at sort of both ends of the spectrum. I've been near the top of the league at Chelsea, and I won the league at Celtic, and I've been in a relegation fight at Derby with Jim Smith. If you don't have any fight in that dressing room to scratch out a 0-0 ugly, a few of those or whatever it is, if you don't have the players to do that, you're screwed. So they have to find somebody that can come in and somehow motivate these players to make them understand the situation they're in. Because 9 months ago, they were in the Europa League final. Now they're fighting for the Premier League survival. That's a different scenario completely. So whoever it is, and I don't know who it's going to be, I've no idea. But somebody has to come in and connect the dots for a 6-week period. Otherwise, this Tottenham side are going to go down. And unfortunately, for all the scenarios around Igor Tudor at the moment, if you look at it from a football perspective and the situation they're in and the job he's done, he's going to have to go. It's as simple as that.
One last thing, James. Could Kinksky be in goal?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they've tried to time the Vicario's hernia operation to minimise the absence, but the briefing that we were given is that they expect him to be back within a month, which is obviously, if it's 4 weeks, then he would miss that Sunderland game, and it creates a very difficult situation where, of course, Kinksky was, embarrassed and humiliated really in the Atletico Madrid first leg. And he might have to come in and try and help save their season in what would be a very difficult game at Sunderland. And, in many ways, it's sort of what Craig was saying about somebody who's going to come in and motivate this group. And I'm reminded of I had a drink with one of the staff members just before Christmas who was telling me that one of the issues they felt they had with this squad was that they didn't respond well to setbacks, that they could work with this team all week, they could set them up, they could start a game well, but if they conceded a goal or they missed a few chances and something went against them, they folded so cheaply. And it's really stuck with me because that was 3.5 months ago. And yet you see it all the time. And Sunday was such a classic example of that. They started well against Forest. They probably could have taken the lead, missed a few chances. Then, of course, they go behind and it just folds, completely collapses like a house of cards. And that's why they need someone. The guys will know you can't coach much now. I don't think tactically we're looking at too much. I think you need somebody who can come in, give these players a bit of confidence, self-belief, play to their level, and they'll stay up because 2 wins would probably do it. But at the moment, they look a long, long way from getting 1, let alone 2.
Somebody, just off the top of my head, somebody like, if they even brought in a double duo, somebody's been there before, is well respected with the Tottenham fans, and he has coached. If he came in with somebody, it would be somebody like Clive Allen. Clive is super respected within the game, but he's no mug behind the scenes. I mean, I think it was 87, he scored 49 goals up front for Tottenham. If he was to come in, or somebody like that was to come in with a Glenn Hoddle or something, just to get them over this line, I think that's kind of what they need. Now, that would be ludicrous to talk about this long-term going forward, sure. But Spurs are looking very short-term at the moment in terms of what they need, and something like that, I think, would sort of possibly galvanise the team in the dressing room.
James, we'll say thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. A lot more from James. He's on the latest edition of the Football Reporters podcast, along with Rob and Oggy. That is available to listen to now, where they talk in more detail about Spurs.
Let me explain for those, but you've had an MRI scan, but not on your knee. I've had at least probably somewhere between 3 and 6 MRI scans on knees, right? Because of operations. It is impossible. But let me put it another way. Unless the player says nothing, it's impossible. Because when you go for, if your problem's on the left knee or the right, if your problem's on the right knee, when you don't just go into the scanner, they put a coil over the knee that's the issue. And then the radioactive frequencies from that coil, which goes round your knee, and it's a structure, it's not like a bit of paper, it is a structure that goes round in the arc. The information from that gives you the analysis. And the other knee, guess what, doesn't have the coil around it. So unless you sat there, Kylian Mbappe, and let them put the coil on the wrong knee and said nothing, then that's fine, then there is a chance. It would take the player, unless the MRI scanners have completely changed, it would take the player to say nothing for this to be possible, because you have to put the injured knee into a coil before you go into the scanner. Comprende?
Frank.
Allow me, Dan, to explain. A year and a half ago, I had to have a scan because of my meniscus. And I exactly did what Craig mentioned. When it was on the right side, they put, how do you call that? A coil?
Coil.
On top of my knee. And I knew that I had a problem on the right knee. So they would have put the coil on the left knee. I would say, oh, sorry, there is a mistake. It's on the right knee. So I have a real concern about Kylian Mbappe not saying anything. I have seen, bad doctors, bad staff, medical staff, whatever it could have been. But why? What was doing Kylian Mbappe? Why he didn't say, sorry, wrong knee, change the call, put it on the other side? That's insane. It doesn't make anything. It's why we think it's impossible. I think Kylian Mbappe has to speak and to explain what happened, because that's impossible again.
Jules' connection's fixed, according to our producer. Jules?
Yeah, I mean, to continue what the boys have been saying, I completely agree with them, obviously. The only thing I could see maybe is that when he reported the injury, the medical staff looked at the two knees, maybe, not through the scan first, and maybe just got a bit confused. That's the only thing I would think. But to go into a proper scan like that on the wrong knee, surely that's not possible.
News, of course, announced yesterday that when Deschamps leaves France, no surprise, it will be Zinedine Zidane, your good mate, Frank, taking over.
Oh, wow, what a breaking news.
Yes,
I didn't expect that coming, that's crazy. Oh la la. Yes, of course, that was the normal following and the succession that we wanted to see. With the era of Didier Deschamps, I think it's only fair to see Zizou coming. And that's kind of a fairy tale, and we want to see that. And it's going to be hard, especially if Didier Deschamps wins the World Cup. I mean, the task for Zizou is going to be huge. But I think it's the wish of all French people who love football. They wanted to see that, like in the 90s, we saw Michel Platini. It didn't work with Michel Platini. It was a hard time at the time between Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille. I want to believe that with the player that Zidane will have under his control, he will do well, because I have no doubt what he did with Real Madrid, it wasn't randomly done. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy that Zizou is taking over Didier Deschamps, because I really think he's the right guy.
24 hours, of course, of big breaking news, big surprises in France, Jules, because Griezmann is going to MLS.
Yeah, and again, we knew this was coming. For the Zidane one, Frank is right, it was the worst kept secret in football. And for Griezmann, he had a chance to go earlier. He decided to stay at Atletico until the end of the season, so he could play in the Copa del Rey final against Real Sociedad, his first club. That was very symbolic for him, very important for him. But he was always going to join Orlando then at the end of the European season, if you want. So he's very happy. It was always his dream. I remember even a long time ago, back in 2016, when we spoke about MLS back then, and he was still very much a younger player in a full strength in Europe and in La Liga, but he was always saying, one day I will play there. I want to live in the US. I want to experience that life. I want to play there. And it's finally happening now. The family is very happy. The three children are very happy. They're going to live somewhere that there's a lot of Spanish speaking and a lot of that kind of Hispanic culture, which is very good for them. And he's very, very excited. But first, he wants to finish on a high with Atletico.
Imagine telling the kids, we're moving to Orlando. They'd be like,
no, how cool is that? Yeah. When I was in Orlando last, the Uber was telling me the kids would go there on school trips. To Disney, to Universal, to everything. How cool is that? Yeah. Very cool. Where did we go on school? Where did you go on a school trip?
Oh, Butlins, which is a very rundown holiday camp in the UK.
Jules, you're in Germany at the moment. Are you flying over here for Brazil-France?
No, I wish, but my editor said, you can do it from home. Let's keep your energy for the World Cup. So I'm going back tomorrow to London after presenting the coverage on Disney Plus for France tonight of the game, the Lyon game, and then I'll be watching it at home.
Good stuff. Of course, you can watch it here.
We got biffed.
You can watch it here on ESPN2 on Thursday. Brazil taking on France. Our coverage starts at 3:30 on ESPNU. So it will be Jamaica against New Caledonia tomorrow, Thursday, in the playoffs to face...
Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday, to face Congo, of course, as the team's looking to book a place in the World Cup this summer. Here's Jamaican goalkeeper Andrew Blake.
The vibe so far, I like the vibe. I feel like everybody know what's at stake. We all know what we got to do. Obviously, this is not where we would want to be, but this is where we are. And I think everybody is still confident. We have a chance. The football is round, and I think that we're all looking forward to it. We're all excited. And I know that everybody's going to go out there and give their best. And sometimes we as Jamaicans tend to operate better when our backs are against the wall. So let's see.
What a day of playoffs it is going to be on Thursday. For a lot more looking ahead to them. And of course, the old prediction as to who's going to be in the starting 11 at the start of the World Cup. Be sure to check out Football Americas. It is, as I mentioned, a huge week for those vying for a place.
Make that graphic a bit smaller, will you?
In the World Cup. 4 European places, of course, still to be filled in total. There are 16 teams vying for those places. And of course, we'll be discussing and looking ahead to those playoffs in more detail on the next edition of the show. Craig, Shaka and Stevie with me here in the studio. Gab Marcotti joining us as well.
Yeah, but I'm not happy with that photo, by the way. That's out of order.
Well, which picture did they use? I didn't pay attention.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a bit worried about what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Tomorrow's fine.
Is it?
Stevie,
Are we going to
Salah.
get 20 WhatsApp messages again?
Gab will be looking ahead. It'll be good. Be sure to join us. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra
What's he
Time.
laughing at?
What are you laughing at, Frank?
The picture.
Oh, yes, the picture was going something. Have we got the picture? Do you want to show it? Is that easy to do? Check out where we're talking about who's on the show tomorrow as we're doing a World Cup qualifier countdown. There it is.
Well, what if...
Look at that.
What
Beauty and the Beast.
What if I had copyright on that picture?
Well, it wouldn't matter.
Nobody's asked me.
No, don't. ESPN surely own all of your image rights.
No.
I think they paid $5 for them. I think that was it. Frank is with us as well. Beautiful. My best friend, Frank Leboeuf, who was sorting out tickets for Thursday's game between Brazil and France. Thank you very much, Frank. No parking, but there you
don't
are.
forget to cheer. Don't forget to cheer for France. You're going to be on the side of French fans.
We're going to that.
What a massive surprise.
Thank God I'm not working on it.
You'll be watching it live on ESPN2, Craig.
Well, I don't think I'm the target audience.
I'll be waving to you. Frank, is it...
4 o'clock? I know, I walk the dogs at 4.
Frank, is it true that as a World Cup winner, you get free tickets to every World Cup competition?
No, absolutely wrong. No. We don't have tickets for that. No, we have to pay if we want to.
Wow.
I can have, like, for you, some comps, if the French Federation wants to.
Yes.
But no.
For friendly.
No, we don't have. any. Maybe some others. Maybe I'm not famous enough to get some free tickets.
What?
Maybe you should ask some others.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe you have to ask Zidane or I don't know, some others. Maybe they can get some. Not for me, anyway.
I wonder where you get these tickets. Like, did he say he had to go to the...
For Thursday's game, he went to the Federation.
Yeah.
There you are.
I couldn't see me going to the Scottish FA.
Well, I don't know.
I wouldn't know how to get in there.
I'm
Or
sure
did he just
someone
ring them up?
Hey Siri, call the Scottish FA.
Hey, do you remember me? 98 World Cup?
Yes.
No. Okay, bye.
Craig, fan of Shirky playing keepy up. Disrespectful. Any teammates of yours do this. If you were white, would you have done the same? This, of course, during the Carabao Cup final, 68th minute. Keepy ups. White took him out.
Oh, I probably would have done the same thing if I was white. But
yes.
Looking at it now, it's not the most egregious thing to do. Maybe it was a little cocky, but
yeah.
Who cares?
No. Frank, how would you have felt?
I could have punched him in the face.
Nice.
That would have been a bad idea. But yeah, I don't like this kind of behavior. But I know what he wanted to do. But it would have been. I like what White did. It just you barely touch him. Just say don't do that. But it didn't go too much. I think in our time that would have been a red card for many players. They would have tackled him like crazy to show that they were upset. So different time. But yeah, don't do that. I mean, it's not really nice. I don't like when you do that.
Arsenal couldn't even make a proper tackle with a player keeping the ball up, could they? Never mind with somebody else.
I don't cry about it.
Not crying, I got some in my eye.
Where do Craig and Frank... I won't go to you. Where does Frank stand on the Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard debate?
What debate?
Well, who's the best?
Well, nobody's having that debate.
Lots of people have that debate a lot. It's a well-worn debate.
I think. Well, I really think that Scholes have been very impressive, but he's not the same type of player that Lampard and Gerrard for me. It was more the guy who never let you breathe, less creative than Lampard and Gerrard. So, but I love, and you needed the players like Scholes, and Manchester United at the time needed a player like Scholes. Frank Lampard, when I played against him when I was at Chelsea, he was playing for West Ham. He wasn't the Lampard that I've known after. What he did at Chelsea was absolutely fantastic. A kind of a miracle. I never expected. I would have never bet a penny on him doing that with Chelsea, knowing what he did or didn't do for West Ham. But great career, a fantastic player. And Gerrard is just a legend. Just a real legend, and hard to name who's the best of those three, especially because they had different tasks.
So did you give an answer there, Frank?
Did I have to?
Yes.
Well, I stand in the fact that they were absolutely beautiful. That's the question. They don't ask me to rank them.
Well, this it does. It says, where do you stand on the debate? A debate.
There is no debate. The only people having a debate are people that got nothing better to do with their life, and they're actually annoying me now.
They don't play the same position at the beginning. They don't have the same job. So why do you want to debate between Scholes and Lampard? They didn't play the same football. So stop that question. Next question, Mr. Thomas, please.
How confident are you that Italy will qualify for the World Cup? Or are the same issues that led them to missing the last two still holding them back? What do they have to do? They're playing Northern Ireland, aren't they? And then they play Wales or Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Yeah, congratulations.
They're through? Is that what you congratulate them?
No, I'm just saying, if they get through, they get through. How worried? What was the question? How worried or concerned?
Yeah, how confident are you?
Yeah, but why would I be confident or not confident? why would I personally care what the hell Italy do? I don't.
Frank, how confident are you?
I think a World Cup without Italy is a mistake because they've been so competitive and good throughout all World Cups. But if they're not in the World Cup, it's because they don't deserve it. That's as simple as that. And so football in Italy is not as big as it has been. It's not the best football anymore. So they just deserve what they have, and they're gonna struggle. So I'm not confident, but it would be nice to see them.
Could Morgan Rogers start ahead of Bellingham in Tuchel's selections, Frank?
Yes.
Frank.
You ignoring me now?
Yes.
Well, stupid questions.
See?
I love Morgan Rogers. I think he's not at his best right now because he's a little bit going down, but hopefully he's going to be very good for the World Cup, and he has something special. And when he's at the top, he's unstoppable. So yes, he has to get him.
I think Tuchel's already shown that, I'm not saying he holds grudges, but if he doesn't like, and he's already had some little quips at Bellingham.
Yes.
They've had some jabs back and forth. You've only got to look at the Alexander-Arnold situation, which, whether you agree or not, about how he's played. He's not played well this season, and he was never guaranteed to get in a 24-man squad. But a 35-man squad just shows that the manager I think probably just doesn't like him. Maybe doesn't like his attitude around the place as well as doesn't like his defending. So I think Tuchel has shown that he's going to live and die by the sword here. And if he thinks Bellingham's not the right fit, I'm not playing well enough, I'm not fit enough, and Rodgers is going to be the better option, he'll play him. I don't think he'll have any issues with that. Now, he'll have to deal with the potential aftermath of how Bellingham reacts.
Yeah.
But that's maybe going to make it quite interesting in the summer to talk about. But I don't think he's going to be frightened. Real Madrid. Oh, I'm Real Madrid's right backer, scoring number 10. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's up to the manager.
Frank, am I right in thinking in France, PSG want to postpone their game against Lens?
Yes. I'm ahead of the game.
Because of their Champions League tie.
It's been refused.
And which brings us to the question, what do you think about Lens refusing that offer?
Ahead of the game.
I know, mate, I know. Impressive.
I think it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, Lens are racing the Ligue 1 with Paris Saint-Germain. They're just 1 point behind, but Paris Saint-Germain has 1 game in hand. And maybe Lens thinks that PSG won't be really serious against them. So maybe it's a chance for them to get the 3 points and chase really Paris Saint-Germain. It's tactical, I would say. Is it nice for the French football? I don't think so. I mean, it's nice to see the light on the Ligue 1 because of the Paris Saint-Germain, so you have to see that. But I understand why Lens is doing that. They would love to win the Ligue 1, and you cannot deny that can be a good move.
It's common sense, isn't it? Why would you, as the biggest rivals at the moment, allow them the postponement to rest their key players when you could give Luis Enrique a decision to make that may or may not weaken this PSG team in a game, in a direct matchup? It's not. I understand, it's good for French football when PSG do what they're doing, but that's not Lens' objective. The objective is to win the game and to win the league. So you want to weaken your opposition as best you can. So yeah, I think both are in the right here. PSG are right to ask, but I think when they asked, they knew probably what the answer was going to be.
Frank, have you ever had a memorable encounter with a fan? It can be a good encounter or a bad encounter.
Well, we had a meeting one day, I think was organized by the club in Marseille, where we had like 200 fans, asking us to come, and we were like 10 players, and that was a hard time where they were all criticizing us, saying that we had to do better. And because I was the captain, I had to talk, and I confronted some fans. And fortunately, I'm from Marseille, so I had some friends coming because I knew what it was about. So they were strong. They were strong friends against fans. We didn't expect that. So it went very intense, but very well at the end, where they understood that you couldn't do that with me because I knew how it worked in Marseille. But that was a hard time. Everybody was, all the players were quite scared.
Knows people.
Quite scared. Yeah.
What about you?
He knows people, Frank.
Yes, of course he does.
Hey,
Yeah?
We've been in the back of a van before you know it. There you go. Won't see the daylight for, I don't know. How long's a piece of string?
You had fans trying to punch you.
Yeah, I had fans try to punch me. I had one fan say he hoped I died. It was my own fan, but it was Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
Celtic fans, and this wasn't when I was playing, this was after.
Yes.
When I was in the media. A couple of times people tried to fight me because their reasoning was that I wasn't currying enough favour to Celtic in my analyst job.
Yeah.
However, they couldn't get their head around it. You can't, when it gets to that situation, I'm sorry, you can't reason with people. You just can't. You say, well, it's not my job to do that. It's not my job to curry favour with Celtic. I've got a duty to other teams and try to be as objective as you can. You can't reason with them. They don't see it. And so luckily there was some other people around. But it never came to anything. But I thought it was coming close a couple of times. Because people are on the old, once they get on the loopy juice, anything's possible. But you get that.
Great.
Frank and I had a very interesting encounter with a supporter outside Wembley just the night before the Community Shield.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We were doing
That's when it was empty and suddenly...
We were doing a piece back to the studio here. You were off again. Don't know where you were.
God, no, hospital.
Life-saving surgery. And anyway, our boss was there and one of the technical crew with the camera, Freddie. And this guy came with a family. He wasn't particularly old. I'm going to say mid-20s, early 20s. And there was at least one kid there, 4 or 5 year old and an older gentleman and blah, blah, blah. And he came up and he was being a bit arrogant. And I think myself or Frank, and he brushed him away. And then he got really aggressive. And to the point he started saying that, I'll take you, I can't remember the exact words, but, you know, touch me again, I'll wipe you out and all that. And he was a gigantic pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. But it did almost spiral out of control, Frank, do you remember?
Yeah, I remember, and it's true that I was watching his hands because he was very political, and he could have had a knife or whatever. I think he was looking for something special, and because the camera were there, you know, maybe wanted to play the hero for whatever it could be, for any causes. So you had to let go. It's hard because you want to punch him in the face, you want to do something because you were in the middle of the work. And Craig was quite clever, and he said, you know, cut the live show and wait for him to go, and it's what we waited, and we were able to do it after. But that was that was intense.
Yeah, those are the situations. Remember Robbo got outside Wembley on his own
during COVID,
and all those fans came up behind them. But my concern is, and we very rarely, if ever, see this. It's the same as supporters of any sport running onto a field. My concern is always, for anybody in this job, is when you're outside like that, or be a player on the field, is people don't go through scanners when they go into these huge stadiums because it would just take too long. Is any idiot could have anything tucked in their jacket or down their trousers or whatever, you know, some kind of instrument or a knife or whatever. So you have to be really careful with these situations, and there's always somebody who wants to be a hero. And that guy that night, he was just, honestly, he's just one of those people that I think reading him over a few minutes' time is, he's always looking for a fight, and people that are always looking for a fight generally get it, and they usually come across somebody that's bigger, harder and smarter than them. But that's the kind of fella he was. So, you know, I'm sure there's been people had issues outside broadcasts and different, but yeah, that was the most recent one. And the thing is, he was with a family as well, so it was a bit of a smart aleck, as we'd say.
Final questions, golf base. Craig, are the links open yet? Are the links open yet?
You mean the golf?
The golf.
Actually, some of the municipals are open. The course I'm a member of is not open yet, but and the weather is finally the snow.
Yeah.
Most of it, almost 99.9. There, I haven't seen any those little clumps.
Yes.
It's almost gone now, isn't it?
Yes, it has. There's a couple of mountains that still available.
Yeah, we're getting to that time.
Counts. Yep.
Craig, I saw on TV that beautiful golf competition between former players of England and former players from the rest of the world, with Ginola, with so many Ruud, Gianfranco Zola, and I was very sad to not having seen you fighting against. It was Ramsey. There was a lot of all PL players, former PL players, and I was looking at Craig Burley and where is he?
They can't afford his fee, Frank.
Thank God I wasn't there if Ruud Hullet was there. You know how long it takes him to play around the golf? No. Oh my God, he used to analyse every shot because he was just learning.
Right.
He was just learning. And
Gianfranco as well.
Yeah, but Ruud, he would hit a bad shot and he'd get behind it. I remember where we were, I think we were in Hong Kong or somewhere. We were playing golf, end of the season, and he hits these shots and then it goes off on a tangent and he stands behind it, he goes, what? What's happened there? And he starts analysing it. How is this possible? Because you're crap.
Yeah.
5.5 hours.
A lovely neck.
Yeah, because in the end, Etchy, my mate, was going, get on with it.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah.
That's it. We won't do the last question. We'll do that another day. ESPN FC.
Tomorrow?
Maybe, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. Here's the lineup for tomorrow.
Oh my
Perfect.
God.
We'll
Again.
ask everyone tomorrow what's on your Masters menu.
Masters.